UFC 281 this Saturday, November 11th or November 12th, between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira for the UFC middleweight world title. Much anticipated fight. But before we get to the main course of our dinner, you got to start off with the appetizers, you know. And our starting appetizer, we're got to go with Dominic Reyes versus Ryan Spann in a light heavyweight fight on the prelims, which will be on, I believe, ESPN. Yes, ESPN and ESPN Plus. Shout out Dana. That is kind of. I actually don't know if that's going to be true though, because wouldn't there be college football on? So definitely ESPN Plus. I doubt the ESPN part will hold through personally. That doesn't make any sense to me. Anyways, regardless, Dominic Reyes, Ryan Spann. Dominic Reyes coming in at a minus 230. Ryan Spann coming in at a plus 190. As I was just telling Zach before, the light heavyweight division is probably my least favorite division in the UFC, not MMA, in the UFC, because they all are just the same. Like they all just beat up on each other. You got like, I guess, I guess, I guess like Yuri Glover, Jan, the guy Jan's fighting, Magomed and Rachic. I would say those five are like in their own category, and then everyone like down is just like they're all the same fighter. Like they all just beat each other up. Like Jamal Hill, Paul Craig, Dominic Reyes, Ryan Spann, Anthony Smith. Like they're all just like the exact fucking same. So this fight does not really intrigue me, but it's definitely a fight I feel we needed to cover. And neither one of these guys has. I mean, no, I'm not going to say that. Dominic Reyes is on an 0-3 tear. Fought John Jones, right? Goes into John Jones fight like 10-0, 9-0, something like that. Okay. As a fight that a lot of people think Dominic Reyes won, which I honestly, I'd have to watch it again. But at the time, I was like, I could see it going either way. And then he gets baptized by Jan fighting for the UFC interim heavyweight, excuse me, light heavyweight title. And then he gets baptized by Yuri. So Reyes hasn't done anything, man. And you hear this theory all the time about when you fight guys like John or you fight like a really good champ like that, that what happens is I just lost my nose. What happens is you put so much into that camp and so much focus into that fighter that like it takes a toll out of you, like physically and mentally and like spiritually. That like after you fight that fight, I mean it happens all, dude, it literally happens all the time. Same thing happened to Thiago Santos. He didn't want to fight in the UFC after. Like it's just you put so much into beating the champ that like afterwards that like the mental toll and physical toll is just you're just not there anymore. But Ryan Spann, I mean, I'm not counting Sam Alvey because he beat Sam Alvey by split decision. Sam Alvey's dog shit. I like Sam Alvey a lot as a person, but he's not a good fighter. Then he got knocked out in the first round by Johnny Walker. Then he beat a guy I've never heard of, and then he lost to Alex Smith by first round. Excuse me, Anthony Smith.
Anthony Lionheart.
Yeah, first round submission, and then he submitted Ion Kudalaba this year in May with a first round submission. So he's kind of like the way I would describe this fight personally is the fight for relevancy. The loser's probably either getting cut or they're just they might get cut, and the winner is probably gonna like just like keep fighting in this like prelim spot they're fighting and just fighting paycheck to paycheck. If I had to pick, I want to go with Dominic Reyes in the fact that I think he's the highest level fighter Spans fighting, but it's very hard to stop an 0-3 skid from going 0-4. Um, I don't know. What do you think, Zach?
Well, before I'd really looked into it, just looking at Ryan Superman Span's kind of journey through the UFC, he's always kind of been that middle of the pack guy, never really fought top competition. He's not going to get dethroned to any champions. I mean, I know he fought Lionheart, but I don't think that was at the time he was like fighting for a title. Really hasn't matched up with anyone super great. I will give him the Kudalaba submission in his most recent fight is pretty impressive. But his counterpart Dominic Reyes has kind of gone under the radar recently, merely for the fact that he is 0-3 in his last three. but I feel like it's kind of unfair to him because he's kind of taken that Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler route of things where like they just keep throwing him fucking murderers, dude.
Yeah,
Like
dude,
they,
his last three. I mean, dude, honestly, even before that, when he was on a tear, this dude's fought everyone. I mean,
dude, murderers.
Jiri the champ, John Jones the champ, Chris Weidman a former champ, Vulcan who's not bad, OSP not bad, knocked out Jared Cannonier. Like, I mean, dude, he's fought
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah, exactly. And you know, I gotta take, I just gotta take Rays in this. I really, I even from your perspective as a fighter, like we know how hard it is to break that 0-3 streak of losses, but like dude, when your quality of competition finally dips down to something more reasonable, like I just think Dana kind of was like, oh, you had that one really good fight against the greatest fighter ever. Like, we're just going to throw you like some of the hardest fights that we've ever come up with, um, ever. And then like now they're kind of giving Reyes a chance against a guy who's kind of up and coming, who had that like upset win over Kudalaba. So, they're trying to see if he deserves that 12 ranking. And then Reyes is kind of like that hump in the road for guys that want to become champions. Like, can you be a quality fighter in Reyes if you want to make it to the top? So, really for Reyes, this is kind of just get your feet back under you type of fight. He is the favorite in this at minus 215 compared to Spans plus 185 odds. But I think taking Reyes is the safer, smarter choice in this fight, only because I think Reyes can kind of defend the takedowns a little bit better. He can probably stuff the submission attempts, whereas I don't really think Span's going to be able to get it done on the feet or like have his way on the ground as much as he would want to in his prior fights.
I agree that Reyes has fought dogs and Span hasn't. And the other thing that I'm rocking Reyes for that reason, and also, dude, he was training with Pereira in this camp. Like, there's videos and
Mm.
photos of them training together. You don't get worse training with Pereira. Like, you know, yeah, I think this fight's gonna show two things. It's gonna show Dominic Reyes says to Ryan Span, "There's fucking levels to this shit, kid," or Ryan Span's gonna be Dominic Reyes and be like, "I'm ready. Like, I'm here, y'all." But yeah,
Hmm.
I'm gonna take Reyes with you on that. A fight that I feel like is extremely underrated is the headline prelim between Brad Riddell and Renato Marciano. I mean, dude, this fight is good. Renato has been on like a weird. He's kind of like on a Ryan Span journey. Like, he beat out Calvin Cater, beat Cub Swanson, and then lost Jose Aldo, lost the Young, and then he goes back up to lightweight, loses to Rafael Fiziev, but then he beats Herbert, and then he beats Alexander Hernandez, loses the decision to Rafael. So it's like it's kind of weird. I mean, the fight with Rafael, he got kind of dogged. But this fight's gonna be good. Brad Riddell, he was on a tear too. I mean, they're losing to the same guys, bro. But like, yeah, they're losing the same guys. I mean, Bradley Riddell beat Drew Dober, then they got knocked out by Rafael Fiziev, and they got that really fast first round submission against him, all against Jalen Turner, if you remember that, Zach,
Hmm.
on the
Yeah.
Adesanya Cannonier card. So
Yeah.
I feel like this fight's like a more skilled matchup than the fight we just talked about. Like, they're both kind of fighting for relevancy. Um, it's going to be interesting. Brad Riddell kind of struggles against lengthier guys, but Hanado is not a natural 55er. He's a natural 45er that's coming up. So it's going to be interesting to see what takes place, who's going to get the lead. Hanado coming in at minus 125, Riddell to plus 105. Hanado training out of American Top Team. Riddell training out of Izzy's camp. Damn, bro, this is gonna be a good fight. I think these two men they're gonna brawl it out, and I think if they get into a really ugly brawl, it's gonna go in favor for Brad Riddell, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I also like Brad Riddell more, but
Fair enough. This is kind of how I view the fight. I think Hanato, um, Moicano, moving up in weight, it's not favorable. From the aspect of most of the questions people have when you move up in weight is, oh, how does your gas tank moving up? How is your speed? How's your hand speed? your punches hit harder? Will your chin hold up at that level? These are all legitimate questions that people have moving up. One of the things I will say for Hanato is he's primarily a grappler. Majority of his wins have come from submission, 9 of them to be exact. And he is the bigger fighter. He stands at 5'11". Brett or Riddell only stands at 5'8". I think with his length, he's going to be able to kind of like command the distance. And if Brad goes to close in too quickly, Hanato can just take him down. Um, Hanato fights at a top team. It's a way more respected camp, well renowned. Whereas Riddell only trains out of city kickboxing, so I don't really trust his
I
ground.
wouldn't say that it's more renowned. I mean, they have Israel Adesanya, Alexander Volkanovski, Dan Hooker, him, Carlos Ulberg. Like,
Very
I mean,
true.
they won Gym of the Year last year.
That is true. I don't know, man. I'm not too big on him. His wins are split between decisions and KOs, and I think Hanato's too smart to make this a stand and bang fight, especially for his first fight at 55.
It's not his
I
first; it's like his second or
uh,
third. But yeah,
yeah, but it's not his comfortable weight. It's not something that he would traditionally want to fight at. Um, looking between, yeah, Hanato's fought more in his career. I think he's just more experienced. The smart thing to do for him, because he's the bigger guy, take it to the ground.
I
Just
agree.
use your BJJ. It's one of your best aspects of your game. I know you want to stand and bang with this guy and make it exciting for the fans. You're the feature prelim for a reason. You're supposed to make people buy the pay-per-views. That's why Dana put you in the spot that you're in. However, it's way more important to get a win on your record and to move up in the rankings and try to fight for a belt than it ever would be to just impress Daddy Dana, in my
Yeah,
opinion, at least. Then again, I'm not the one that gets punched in the face for 5 rounds or 3 rounds in this case. So hey, do what you want to do, man. But I agree with you. If it is a stand and bang match, I would lean towards more Riddell. However, my brain tells me that Hanato is going to utilize his Brazilian background and just take this to the ground where it should be.
the
So I'll
only other
take.
thing I think I like with Riddell is that he's in fight camp with Olberg and Izzy. Like they did their fight camp together. And I've only had fight camps with my teammates. Well, actually, no, it's not true. I've had fight camps with my teammates my first fight and my second fight, but my second fight was a little different because a lot of people backed out. And then my third fight, it was just me and one other kid, Ryan. And going into that fight and then watching Ryan win and seeing how ready Ryan got and made me feel more confident. It's same with like when I used to fight at ATT with Edgar and stuff like that. So I think that when you're in camp with your boys, it like definitely helps the focus a lot. But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be a good that's gonna be a good fight, regardless, in my opinion. Like that's just gonna be a good fucking fight. But yeah, moving
I agree.
on to the main card, we have Dan Hooker taking on Claudio Puelles at a lightweight fight. Dan Hooker was a lightweight, tried to do a little dip to featherweight, and now he's back up to lightweight. Hooker coming in at a minus 165, Puelles coming in at a plus 140. Zach, how about you start us off with this one?
Yeah, Hooker's definitely the fan favorite. I think everyone kind of knows this guy, who he is, what he's done for the UFC. He's got a pretty good career under him. However, he is 1-4 in his last 5 fights. He's lost to Arnold Allen due to TKO. Not a really impressive guy, in my opinion. Well, I mean, Allen is kind of up and coming, so you have to
Yeah, he's
give him
up and
his flowers
coming,
there.
but like
Yeah,
Hooker should have won that fight.
yeah, he should have won that fight. We're not going to talk about Islam Makhachev. Lost to Michael Chandler, TKO. Lost Dustin Poirier, who's a very good guy. His last win was to a guy whose name I can barely pronounce. And it was a unanimous decision. They just kind of got his feet back under him. As for his opponent, the Prince of Peru, Claudio Puelles, this guy's been on a tear. He's 5-0 in his last fight, but he hasn't really fought anyone. That's kind of his issue. My thing is I think his ground game demands respect. I mean, this guy is a demon. I think he's just like the younger guy. He's kind of built for this. He's 26 years old. Dan is what,
32.
32? Yeah. I mean, and that's not to say Dan's like old and on his way out, but he's older. And these young guys, they got the gas tank, they got that energy, that youth in them, to kind of carry him these fights. Dan does have a little bit of a height advantage, but I don't know, man. Something tells me Claudio is just better prepared for this fight. I mean, he murdered Clay Guida in his last fight. That was kind of sad to watch. First round knee bar. Um, Yeah, I think,
It's
yeah,
so
good God.
violent.
Yeah. Like, come on. Dude, holy shit. His last three submission wins are all knee bars.
Damn. So
Yeah.
Hooker better keep it on his
Run.
feet. Yeah.
Yeah, run. Holy shit, dude. That is terrifying. If you've never been in a knee bar before, just know that you are literally a split second away from tapping or losing your entire knee. So enjoy that option. Definitely isn't fun. But yeah, I don't see Hooker preventing Claudio from taking him to the ground. I'm interested to see what you have to say. Because yeah, I'm fully on Claudio's hype train right now.
So I mean, Hooker is 1-5 in his last five, but I mean, like, he went on that tear and like ended up beating Paul Felder with that fifth round takedown, that great fight, which was on the same day as it was on the same day as some big boxing fight that sucked. I can't remember what it was. Anyways, long time ago. Anyways, yeah, Paul Felder beat Paul Felder. Then he goes into that bloodbath versus Poirier during COVID, and then he's never the same. I mean, Chandler built his started his UFC career just dinking his chin, beat Nasrat, who's been sucking recently as well, and then took that short notice Islam fight and lost to Arnold Allen, who's an up and comer. So he's not losing. I mean, he's still good. Like, Hooker's still a good fighter. He's fighting the best. But the thing is, I don't think his style relates. And Dan Hooker's style is eat as much as you can and just throw back, and I'm just gonna make it bloodier on you. But the problem is when you have that style, you need to have knockout power. Like, the reason it works out for Poirier and the reason it works out for like Gaethje is because, like, eventually when they dink your chin, you go to sleep. With Hooker, you stay there and just eat it. And I don't think that he can bank on it. Puelas has to get it on the ground. He just has to. Like, there's no other argument. I do think, though, the durability of Hooker is going to be the question of this fight. Can his cardio keep him away from Puelas for 15 minutes? Can he land big strikes and stay there and things exchange? Or is his chin going to be glass? So I think that also, how's his takedown defense? There's a lot of factors to bring in here. Um, but I feel more confident picking Puelas just because I think Hooker's on his way out. And I like Hooker. He's done a great job putting on a show for everyone. I just think that when you have that style of fighting, it's hard to do it for a long time. I mean, look at Tony, look at a lot of these guys, man. Like, look at Nick Diaz. Like, you can't fight like that forever. And I think
Yeah.
he's 32. He's coming on to. I mean, I know 32 in most sports isn't that old, but in MMA it's very old. So I think it's gonna be the fight that sends Hooker on his way, which sucks, man. I really fuck with Hooker, and I like all those shitty kickboxing guys. It's just, yeah, I think the old dog's had his last bite.
Yeah. Speaking of on their way, that brings us to our next fight between the legend himself, Frankie Edgar, taking on Chris Gutierrez. Edgar is entering this fight at what I believe 41 years old.
Old as
Um,
fuck.
yeah, his professional record stands at 24 wins, 10 losses, and one draw. Grayson, would you like to break down this man's resume and some of the accolades he's built up for himself, not only in the
So
UFC?
Frankie Edgar is kind of a pioneer in the sport, you could say, because I mean, BJ Penn was, I believe, the third UFC lightweight champion ever, third or fourth, and then he reigned for like a long time. People were calling him the people call him pound for pound goat. He fought George St. Pierre to try to take the welterweight title. I do believe BJ Penn even held the welterweight title at one point. When he fought Matt Hughes. So I mean, he dismantled BJ, ended BJ's career. This young kid from Thomas River, New Jersey, I believe that's where he's from, comes from out of nowhere, goes to and listen to this before we even get into any of that. Frankie Edgar walked around at 155 pounds, but in the time he fought in the UFC, the WEC was its own entity. So there was no weight class lighter than 155. The WEC only went up to welterweight. It was 135 to welterweight. That was the WEC. So there
Mm,
was no. So, like, he stayed in the UFC, being probably close to 20 to 40 pounds smaller than his opponents naturally. Okay, and then he beat BJ Penn defended his belt against BJ Penn. People were like, "Oh, BJ had a bad day." Whooped him again. Then they give him the Gray Maynard fight, who beat him before he was champ. They go into a. If you've never watched Gray Maynard versus Frankie Edgar 2, you need to watch it. It's a fucking war. Goes to a draw, and then Frankie beats Gray Maynard in the third one. Gets his 3 title defenses out of the way. Loses his belt to Benson Henderson. And also, like I'm telling you guys, watch the Frankie Edgar Gray Maynard. Frankie Edgar gets pummeled in either the first or second round. Like anyone else in the entire planet would have been unconscious. And then he goes to his corner. They sit him down. They pour water in his head. He goes, "Where the fuck am I?" He had no idea what he was fighting off instinct. He just like went out, woke up, and there's just a dude trying to hurt him, and he's just fighting back. Like he's literally like, I don't know what the fuck's going on, but which is crazy. But then he goes down to featherweight, gets 2 title shots against Jose and Max Holloway, doesn't get it done. Now he's down at 35, which is super weird, and has not looked good there, man. Beat Pedro in an absolute bullshit decision. Gets, I don't know if you've seen the Corey Sandhagen knockout, but it might be one of my favorite knockouts ever. Just flying knee, so natural. And then Cheeto knocks him out with the front kick. So this is his retirement fight. He announced it. It's all agreed. Everyone knows. And who's he fight? Chris Gutierrez. How do you say fucking name?
Gutierrez.
Gutierrez. I honestly don't know much about this guy, man. He's pretty freaking good though. He's on a 3-fight win streak. Got a draw and then won the 3 before that. Dude's pretty good. Came out of the LFA. Won the Ultimate Fighter. Oh no, he lost. Ultimate Fighter in the finals. Pretty good, man. Young kid. Fights out of Factory X. Expect this to be a stand and bang fight where Frankie Edgar's chin's gonna disappoint him and Gutierrez or however you say his name's gonna get knock him out, which is sad.
Yeah.
Frankie Edgar's a first ballot Hall of Famer. All right, I don't know if he used his money poorly. That's why he's still fighting, or he doesn't know anything else, so he's just fighting because he has to fight. Like, but that man's earned a lot of money in his time in the UFC. Like, he definitely gets paid pretty well, and he's a veteran, so he's getting paid most than normal guys too. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I just think I know it sucks, and there's gonna be a day I'm gonna have to come to it too. But like, you gotta have a realization that you're just done, dude. Like, you can't. There's other routes for you in life.
Yeah. I'm kind of just in that boat where like I recognize how good Frankie was and how good he was for the sport, but the kind of reoccurring theme in those sentences is the word was. You're past your prime, man. Look, it doesn't mean we're gonna forget about you or how great your fights have been in the UFC, but it's time, man. And hopefully Gutierrez proves that to him because I'm afraid if he does win one more fight, then Dana's gonna have to step in and be like, all right, let's give you a top 5 guy to really just show you your way out. Kind of like how they did with who did they do that to recently? They kind of
Nate,
just like Tony. No, they did it to Tony and Nate. They tried to do it to Nate as well, but Tony, Tony, they fucked hard. Yeah. Hey man, great career. Huge shout out. We'll be rooting for you. We hope you win, but at the same
oh yeah, I
time,
would
like,
love to see Frankie Edgar win his retirement fight.
yeah.
I feel like
But
all I've been doing is watching my childhood fucking favorite fighters lose their retirement fights this past 2 years.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Dana's kind of like that meme from Malcolm in the Middle where Dewey's sitting on the basketball hoop and he's just like, "The time is now, old man. To keep it moving."
Yeah, that's
Like,
sad, dude. But our next fight is probably one of the best put together fights and of the year easily, maybe of all time. Dustin Poirier coming in at a -230 in our featured fight of the evening against Iron Mike Chandler coming in at +190. Kind of cool how these guys are like, they're gonna fly out. Where's this fight in Vegas? In New York? Oh, it's an MSG. It's pretty sick. This fight's in MSG, and they're gonna fly out all the way out there, and they do this whole camp and stuff. And their camps are probably 20 minutes away from each other in South Florida.
mm,
You know, Dustin at Coconut Creek with ATT and Mike at Mike out of what's it
Sanford,
called? Kill Cliff
Sanford.
now. Yeah, well, Sanford, but now it's Kill Cliff. That's their new sponsor.
Mm.
Uh, um, but yeah, that's crazy. It's gonna be a war. It's gonna be an absolute war. I was telling Zach too before we did this. It's going to be the exact same thing as the Gaethje fight, in my opinion. I think Chandler's going to win the first round. I just think he's so explosive and has so much just like woo that he comes out like dangerous as hell in the first round. I mean, look what he did to Oliver. He fights every first round great, every first round great. So I think he's going to win the first round. But I think what's going to end up happening is in the second and third, Dustin's punches are going to get heavier and Mike's aren't. I don't think Mike has the snap to his punches that Dustin has, and I think Dustin's gonna outstrike him with volume by a lot. You know, and you hear James Krause talk about it, and I was just talking to my coach Vince McGinnis about it the other day. What Dustin does well is they call it like a slap back. Every time he gets hit, he hits right back. So even if he loses, like even if he doesn't throw as many, like say you hit me with 15 clean, I only hit you with like 8 clean, but we have the same amount of volume. It's like, you know, it helps him win those battles. He doesn't lose due to volume. And it's so hard too when I throw you a combo and then you hit me right back to fucking gasses you. So he does a really good job at that. And I think that's what one of the things that makes him stand out. I think that's one of the things that he's built his career on is that every time you throw, he throws. You know, he comes right, but he's always responding. And I think he's just higher level than Chandler. I think Chandler's a dog. I mean, I love Chandler, but even when Chandler came to the UFC, I said it. He couldn't be champ. He's not. I don't know what it is. There's just like I don't know if it's his power or his smoothness. There's just something he's missing, and Dustin's got it. You know, it's going to be a
Yeah.
fucking dog fight though, like an absolute banger of a fight. It's going to be super fun to watch. I just think Dustin's going to come out on top.
Yep. Like you kind of touched on, it's the Diamond versus Iron Mike. Two guys that love to stand and bang, and they like to put on shows for the fans. They're big crowd pleasers, fan favorites. Everything you could ask for. You're in the heart of New York at MSG. Sellout crowd. What more could you ask for? There's a reason this is on the main card. And what is it? The co-main
It's the
event?
feature fight.
Yeah. So it's the feature fight, one before the main event.
Two
Yeah.
co-main
Look,
event.
Michael Chandler, since he came into the UFC, he's been started at stand only has 4 fights in the UFC.
But
He's 2-2.
they've all been fucking electric. He has not fought a
Yeah,
boring fight.
yeah. Like his fight against Dan, amazing first round finish. Fight against Charles, got knocked out, but that first round, I thought he guaranteed
I
one.
thought
Like
he
if
had it. I
Charles,
thought he won the fight.
yeah, but Charles was on his. Charles was the enlightened one. He was chosen by God. Up until the Dagestani put his lights out. His loss against Gaethje decision that literally was a war. It looked like those two guys like were fighting for their next meal. That was some savages going at it. And then his last fight, Tony Ferguson, who I'd never seen get knocked out of my life, who I literally watched get punched a billion times by Justin Gaethje, took a front kick from Thor's hammer, and
Yeah.
and I watched his soul like go to heaven before like being sucked back into his body because Tony just refuses to die. Um, he actually kicked a Harvard brain into Tony, believe it or
He
not.
kicked him so hard. Harvard got Tony.
Yeah, yeah. They like Harvard saw Tony take that head kick and were like, "Damn, like you want a scholarship, bro? Like we need to study your brain." But that's just a little inside between me and Grace. We've been dying all week at these Harvard business memes of Tony because nothing kills me more than seeing Tony just walk around campus in sleeves and his little like glasses, and
Yeah,
he's
no,
just
the
like
best is the
posted
one
up.
he's just standing on like their breezeway and he's just you already know he like put
He's
his
like,
phone down on a rock and put a timer on it and walked over there. It was just like
"Yeah." They're like, hey Tony, what are you majoring in? Real champ shit, baby. I'm like, yes.
yeah,
Hell
I
yeah.
forgot they had that major.
They're like, oh yeah, shit. They're like, damn, you going for your masters in that, dude? I'm already the champ, dude. Best
That's
believe it.
fucking
But
hilarious.
oh
Yeah,
fuck,
it's gonna be a banger of a fight, dude. It's gonna be two of the best in the world getting locked into a cage doing what they're the best at. That's what it's gonna be.
yeah. Um, I'm not gonna say much about this next fight. I'm just gonna get it out of the way. Zhang Wei Li is beating Carlos
Yeah,
Esparza.
Zhang Wei. I don't give the shit about this fight at all. I
I
hate
don't.
Carlos Esparza. This should be Wei Li versus Rose 3. Or
But
yeah, but you know what? Shit
it's
happens.
MMA.
It is what it is. I am still think Wei gonna bat tie. It's gonna be a finish. It's not going 5 rounds.
Yeah, nope. But let's get to why we're all here. This is why it's in Madison Square Garden. This is probably one of the most anticipated rematch. It's funny, we say rematch, but these guys have never fought each other in the MMA world. But you know what they have fought? Glory kickboxing, and that is between Alex Pereira Potan and Israel the Last Stylebender Adesanya. Izzy, 23-1 in his UFC career. He's the champ. Look, he's getting a lot of flack as of recently. He's had some very boring fights. Kind of just like the feint master, he'll like flinch at you and maybe throw a leg kick here or there and then just like dance around you for 5 rounds. Whereas Pereira has been up in the mountains of Brazil, murdering mountain lions with stairs. This man scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that he is a walking meme. He literally just posted a photo with Elsa in Times Square. He's been training on hoverboards. I personally think he's memeing the shit out of Izzy, and I think it's bothering Izzy because every time you show an interview with like Izzy, he's like, "Oh, I've never been more locked into my fight in my entire life. Like this means more." He's like, "Fuck the belt. Like I don't even care about the belt. Like this is between me and him." And then they interview like Pereira, and Pereira's like, "Yeah, I've been taking my kids to Disney World, and like I just love life." And like it's like the biggest what the fuck is like going on right now because like no matter how serious Izzy tries to take this fight, I just become more confident in Pereira because Pereira looks like he just doesn't give a shit. Like he already beat him twice and he like knows he's like, I know you're not gonna take me down because you think you can stand up with me. He's like, I'm just gonna kill you. Like he's like, I murder people for a living now.
When this fight got announced, I mean, when Pereira got signed to the UFC, I was a huge Pereira hater. I was like, he's just gonna get wrestled. Like his striking's not gonna correlate. Like he'll never see Izzy. Blah blah. Then he goes on a tear, and he does the world a favor and shuts Sean Strickland the fuck up. And then he gets the Izzy fight. And throughout this whole time, I've been like, Izzy's gonna kill him. Izzy's gonna kill him. And the more I started learning about Pereira, and the more I started talking to my teammates, I talked to my coach, who was a former glory kickboxer himself. They're just like, Pereira would walk down to hell and stare at the devil and make the devil like blink. He is the most he's who the boogeyman looks under his bed for at night. Like I don't
Yeah.
know what you guys know about this man, but first of all, go watch his glory kickboxing highlights. Horrifying. And then just go scroll through his Instagram. Look at his training videos. Look at him kicking a soccer ball and then fucking hitting it with a bow. It's him shooting revolvers. Him and Glover just standing in a phone booth, just beating the fuck out of each other. Like he looks horrifying. He looks like a villain. Like he looks like a scary movie villain. He is
Yeah.
terrifying. And the thing is this game of Izzy doing feints and circling. Pereira's not going to skate. You're not going to psych him. Izzy's
Yeah.
going to fake, and Pereira's going to stay like this. He doesn't fear Izzy. That's the issue. And the reason why you're like, why is he so laid back in all these videos? He doesn't fear him. This isn't a
Yeah.
this isn't a Israel Adesanya, oh my god, title fight for Pereira. This is just another fight, And the Izzy, it's a redemption, redemption. I don't think Pereira even gives a fuck that they fought the 2 times before. He's just like,
Mhm.
whatever, it's a fight. But I think that the psychological warfare is gonna be crazy. I do think Izzy wins round one no matter what happens. I think Izzy's gonna win the round one. He's gonna hit some leg kicks, dance, get back. Dude, this fight. The more I'm talking about, the more fucking excited I am for this fight. I do
Yeah.
think two things. I think one, it doesn't go the distance. I think they're both gonna try to rip
Not
each
a
other's
chance in
fucking head
hell.
off. They don't like each other at all. That's the other thing too. Is like outside of fighting, they genuinely don't fuck with each other, which makes it
Yeah.
so much more fun to watch. Um, the only thing is Izzy does Izzy decide to try to wrestle? Okay, if he does, will it even be any good? Because his it's having good takedown defense and good takedown offense are completely two different fucking things in the world. That's like being good
Mhm.
at hitting a baseball and being good at pitching. They're completely different categories. Okay,
Yeah.
and on top of that, if it gets to a close round around, Izzy thrives there. Izzy's a very, regardless of your opinion of Izzy, he's a very good fight manager. He's probably the best outside of Usman, in my opinion. At his awareness of what's going on in each round, when he needs to land it. It's boring. It's absolutely boring, but it's extremely technical and it's extremely high level. So
Yeah.
Pereira has to finish him, and if it does go to decision, he has to dog him because Izzy is the king. If If you play the numbers games and the points games, that's Izzy's the best in the world at that. Regardless of,
Yeah.
and this is the other thing, man. This is the other thing I gotta say. Do I think Izzy's boring? Yes. I am not an Izzy fan at all. At all. I'm a Rob Whitaker fan. I want Pereira to knock Izzy out. Rob go fight Pereira, take him down and submit him and get his fucking belt back. That's what I want. I love Rob, okay? But as a fighter, not as a fan, as a fighter, I have so much fucking respect for Izzy. Yeah, is this shit boring? Absolutely. But the issue is when you've defended your belt this many times and haven't lost for this many times, everyone is studying you. Everyone, and George St. Pierre talked about this when he talked about Izzy in an interview. He goes, every single fight is so much harder, regardless of the opponent, because they have that much more info on you and they have that much more. So the thing I do respect about Izzy is, regardless of if it's boring or not, he's still fucking winning, bro. He's still the UFC middleweight champion of the world. You know, yeah, it's
Yeah.
not fun to watch. He's probably the most boring champ to watch, honestly, but he's still fucking winning. If he doesn't lose in fights like this for the next 5 years, he's probably the best fighter of all time.
Yeah.
You know?
Like I said before, I think Pereira literally was put on this planet to kill Israel Adesanya. I think they like sacrificed, like his mother like had to take out her uterus and put it on like an Aztec Mayan temple, and then he just like showed up in the
And they
forest
and
like
they had
naked at
like
the age of 30.
like 3 like drops of blood from Izzy from his umbilical
Yeah,
cord.
yeah, and then they had to take the blood of like a lion and the blood of like a mythical creature, and they just like left it there, and then he just like showed up in his village at like 13 years old.
Yeah, he showed up as a teenager already. Fuck the.
Yeah,
He said,
and
"Fuck growing, I'm here already."
yeah, and then they like asked him, they're like, "What is your name?" But he didn't say his name. He just kept saying Israel Adesanya. So they thought that was his name at first, but then they realized no, that's who he's come for, and
Dude,
he's just out to murder.
this fight is extremely exciting.
Yeah.
I think Prayer is the scariest man on the planet. Fuck all the
Yes.
muscles and stuff. I think he's scarier than any like giant bodybuilder or any big heavyweight.
Yeah. I want Paulo Costa to be his translator, just to like he can put it in like rough terms, like because I know Pereira would try to be respectful, and then Paulo would just be like, "Yeah, he said he's a fucking bitch. Like he's
Yeah.
a pussy." And he's
I
like,
think
"Fuck that guy."
Izzy's got to go to decision, and Pereira's got to knock him out.
Yeah.
The other thing
Pereira.
too that's a factor that I'm going to say this, it's a positive and negative. Pereira is a lot fucking bigger than Izzy, like probably by close to 30 pounds. All right. You saw the picture of him and Dominic Reyes. Dominic Reyes ain't a small light heavyweight at all. And he is like towering over him in height, and he's like way wider than Dominic Reyes. Izzy doesn't cut any weight. Izzy walks around 195, 200. He didn't even make 205 when he fought Jan.
They showed up to the weigh-ins eating pizza.
At
Like,
198 he weighed in at.
yeah, yeah,
But so the power's there. Can he dance for 25 minutes? That's a long time. And Izzy's done that dance a lot. I don't know how the glory kickboxing rounds work actually before. I sound stupid. It's probably just as long. Oh no. It's 5 rounds of 3 minutes. Yeah, he's had never gone 25 minutes. He's never
mm.
gone 25. That's 10 more minutes of fighting, dude.
10 minutes is a long time in the fighting world.
10 minutes is a long time in life, dude.
Yeah, you ain't lying. Anyway, I
Give
think
me
that
Pereira. Give me Pereira. Third round knockout.
yeah, I was gonna
Hurts
say
him bad the end of
Pereira.
the second. Seals the second. Then when they go to your corners, he just stays in the center of the octagon. None of his cornermen come in the cage. They don't give him water. They don't give him anything. He just stands there. Then Izzy gets up and then he knocks him out in the beginning of the third.
Mm. See, I was thinking Izzy wins first round.
Izzy's going to win the first round
Um,
100%.
maybe stuns him, tries to open it up in the second round, gets caught towards the end of the second, and gets TKO'd at the end of round two. That's
What's
kind
going to
of how I see
hurt
it.
Izzy is what's going to hurt Izzy is exactly like guys like us. People that are like, he's too boring. He's too boring. If what I think is going to happen realistically is Izzy psychologically like, this is my redemption fight. I'm tired of being called boring. Like I need to kill this guy, like blah blah. And he's gonna Jose Aldo it, and he's gonna open up a little too much to prove a point, rather than what he
Bingo.
should do is fight a boring ass fucking fight and stay the UFC world champion. That's what he
Yep.
should do. But that's part of the game, dude. And I mean, obviously, like, look, we can talk all this shit we want about Izzy getting knocked out, but like, we're two fucking 23-year-old kids doing nothing with our lives, and he's the fucking middleweight world champion. Like, he obviously has a game plan and like believes in himself. But I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I don't see him winning this fight.
Yeah. Honestly, the way I see it playing out is that like Key and Peele skit where like Key is like the guy that keeps talking about like murdering his family and
Yeah,
that God
he's
is
like, I'll
speaking to him.
sacrifice you to my family like in blood. And he's like,
Yeah, he's like crying. He's like crying. He's like, dude, he's like, you know we're shit talking, right? He's like, please tell me you're
they're
just
like,
shit
hey, by the
talking.
way, he's missing from the building. And he's like, what do you mean?
They're like, what? Like, what do you mean? Where's he at?
But yeah, man, UFC
Oh fuck.
281, November 12th, Madison Square Garden Arena. Early prelims start at 6, prelims should start at 8. And they're on ESPN Plus, main card on ESPN Plus, pay-per-view for $75.99. Clocks on the stove, baby. Let's go Pereira.